Hey everyone, it's me again, Brittany, and I'm here today to bring you guys a graphic novel and a little bit of manga haul. I have built up quite the collection in the past few months, and I did decide pretty early on that I kind of wanted to make this its own haul video. That way it could get the attention it needed on my channel. A ton of you guys have just been really enjoying that I've been reading more graphic novels. I've gotten so many amazing recommendations from you, and I've just been having a really good time reading them. It's a completely different form of reading, and it's just really fun, and I know that you guys have kind of been wanting to see which ones I like or which ones I've bought, and I'm bringing you this video. This is actually my second time filming this. Unfortunately, the first time around, I was blurry the whole time and out of focus. So if I keep looking this way, it's because I want to make sure that I'm in focus. So yeah, let's just kind of get into it. It isn't huge by any means, but there are about 18 books in this, so it is pretty decently large. I won't be giving you huge explanations for what they are about, but I will leave them linked down below just in case you do want to find out more about them or buy them. So yeah, let's do it. The first book that I want to talk to you about is Heartstopper Volume 1 by Alice Oseman. This one really took BookTube by storm. I feel like everyone's really been enjoying these books. They are so cute and so wholesome, and they've gotten a really great rep for it, and for good reason. I honestly was a little nervous. I did read the first one already, and going into it I was a little hesitant just because I knew that it was about two guys who became friends, and one of the guys had feelings for the other, and the other really had never had feelings for a guy before, and I was just interested to see how it was going to play out and see how that whole relationship was going to be built. And honestly, I was just touched by this story. It was just so sweet and wholesome, and it was just really kind, and both of them just have a lot of respect for each other, and the friendship was amazing. The families in this were amazing, and if you're just looking for something really sweet and wholesome and cute to pull you up, definitely pick up this book. And no surprise, after I finished reading this, I went out and bought, I'm holding it upside down and backwards, Heartstopper Volume 2. I still have not read this one, but I just know that I'm saving it for a moment where I just want to feel super happy and cute and wholesome. And I know that the third one doesn't come out for a while, so I kind of want to save it just in case, because I hate reading a book and then having to wait a really long time for the next one when I just want to pick it up right away. Which makes no sense, because I've waited a long time between this one and this one just because I want to wait until the third one. So I'm really waiting the same amount of time. I'm just tricking myself into thinking it's something else. Okay, but yeah, so these are the first two, and they are graphic novels. I actually thought that they would be more like manga, but they do read the way that we normally read graphic novels, so like the Americanized way, while manga reads backwards, just in case you were wondering. And they are actually taller than like normal mangas. I thought that they'd be the same size, but they are pretty tall. Speaking of wholesome, I got the Tea Dragon Society. I'm not sure, I might have actually hauled this one, but let's just talk about it again because I'm absolutely obsessed with this. This is just so freaking cute. It's about these friends that form a society about tea because their dragons create tea, and it's just really sweet and shows a lot of respect, and it shows a lot of love for each other, and we just get so many backstories, and I just really enjoyed this. I think that the tea dragons themselves are just the best part about the story because they're just like little animals and they just need love and care, and it's like a symbiotic relationship. Is that the one I'm looking for? Where they just like thrive off of each other. It's not, right, so it is symbiotic instead of like parasitic. That makes sense. Science. But yeah, they just live off of each other, so like they have their tea dragon and they take care of their tea dragon, and in turn their tea dragon gives them tea, and it's just like a really lovely society. It's everything. And this one's actually the Owl Crate edition. I don't know if they are selling it anymore, but if they are, just go to owlcrate.com, and in their like past items shop, it should be there. That's actually where I got mine because I didn't get the box that had this one in it. More Katie O'Neill. Aquacorn Cove. After I read Tea Dragon, I knew that I wanted everything that she's really ever made, so I went with Aquacorn Cove first because this one is more about a girl that's trying to save the sea and the sea life because she cares so much about the sea creatures, and I just know it's going to be lovely. Look at these end papers. It's like a cute little seahorse. I love her art style. It is just so freaking cute, and it actually does at the end show a Coral Reef Conservation Alliance. Like, she actually really does want to help the world, and you can really tell from how she writes, and it's very sweet and touching, and I can't wait to pick this one up. I haven't yet. Again, it's one of those weird things where I just know I'm gonna love it so much that I keep putting it off, so I never knew that was part of my personality trait, but that's a thing that I do all the time now. And then while we're on the Katie O'Neill chit-chats, dewdrop. So I actually got sent Dewdrop and this humongous edition of Tea Dragon Festival. This is actually the size that Tea Dragon Society normally is, so that's why I originally got the Owl Crate one, because I liked the smaller size, but now that I have this one, I kind of want to go out and buy the one that's this size as well, so that they can match. But Tea Dragon Festival does take place in the same world as the Tea Dragon Society, but it doesn't follow the same characters, I believe. So I'm excited to see what this one's about. It's a lot bigger, so I'm really, really excited about that. Let's look at the end papers. Ah, it's a little tea kettle and like a pouch. Her art style is everything. So far I've only talked about wholesome books, and I love that for me because normally all I read is fantasy, and we all know that fantasy is not wholesome 99% of the time. So, I mean, this is technically fantasy, but you know what I mean. I mean like Throne of Glass and Nevernight and things like that, and Game of Thrones. That fantasy. And then Dewdrop also was sent to me by the publishers at Oni Press, and this is actually a little sampler of what she's going to be coming out with. I have not picked it up yet. I want to actually read it this week, and I'm gonna read Tea Dragon Festival and this back-to-back, and maybe I'll pick up Aquacorn Cove if I'm really in the mood. It comes out in April of 2020, so I'm really, really excited to read this and then get the full version of it, because I'm sure I'm just gonna fall in love with it. She just has such a way of making the cute animals that we already have in day-to-day life even cuter with a fantasy touch, and I just appreciate that. Alright, so now that we're done talking about all the cute wholesome books that I've bought, let's talk about some of the more classic graphic novels, like V.E. Schwab's Shades of Magic series. This is The Steel Prince. This is the first book in the series. So this is actually a prequel to the A Darker Shade of Magic novels that she has, and it's following the king, well, he's a prince at this time, but it's the king of A Darker Shade of Magic when he was young, and just kind of his adventures as the Steel Prince, because he's kind of a badass and we don't get to see that side of him in A Darker Shade of Magic. So I was really, really excited to start this. Actually, Purina got it for me. Purina's a lovely booktuber here that I actually met at BookCon, so I will leave her linked so that you can go check her out. She is just so sweet and her accent is adorable, and I'm so thankful that she got me this. Unfortunately, I didn't adore it. I did end up giving this 3 stars. I just am very particular about art styles in graphic novels, and even though this one's story is absolutely incredible, I really think that as far as the story goes, I'm really interested to see the next one and see where it goes. It just kind of confuses me with the art style. Now, in general, in graphic novels, the cover is going to be like the most refined version of the art style that you're going to see in the graphic novel, and the rest might be sort of like general impressions while still holding on to the artistic nature of it. And this one just didn't work for me like that. It was almost too much of an impression. Like, you don't actually ever really see the eyes of anything. It's just like general strokes. And that is how a lot of them are, but this one just was a little too confusing for me. I didn't like not being able to understand or see the characters, I guess. And for me, it was mostly the fight scenes. When the fight scenes would come around, I had no idea who was who, what was going on. They were just too fast, and it just didn't give me enough satisfaction. I didn't understand why the person that had won, what had exactly gone down. It doesn't help that it does throw in magic, so it's not just regular fighting. Regular fighting is already pretty confusing to see in graphic novels, but this one uses magic as well, so sometimes you just don't know what's going on, which was, you know, unfortunate. But I am still excited to see the next one. I do still think that like, the art style on the covers and the title pages is so beautiful, and I do like the story, even though I know it's not very high risk, because we do see obviously the king in A Darker Shade of Magic. We kind of know what goes on, but it's nice to get the details. Alright, this next one is one that I feel like everyone in the world has heard of, and that's gonna be Saga Volume 1. So if you weren't already aware, Saga is about this little baby right here, and it actually is told from his perspective, or his or she? I think it's a girl, actually. But it's told from her perspective, and she is telling the story of her parents who fell in love. And they fell in love at a time where both their worlds were at war with each other, and their people absolutely hated each other to the point of absolute just annihilation. They could not understand ever in their right minds how 2 people from their worlds could fall in love, and because of that they have gone down to hunt them down and to try and kill the baby that just should never have happened. And it's really cool. It's definitely a sci-fi, so if you're not that into sci-fi, I actually do still recommend it. I think that it's a nice like Even though it's pretty hardcore sci-fi, I just feel like it's a nice transition into it. It's not as scientific as like the sci-fi novels, but it still has a lot of that like alien kind of fun going on, and the humor in this is absolutely amazing. I really like her as a character. She's hilarious. He's kind of boring, but I really appreciate him because he's really kind and nice, and he just is trying to take care of everyone, but he does have a dark side, which was really cool to see, and the ending of this was so amazing, and I just really am excited to get to the next one. I do feel like with Saga, it is such a phenomenon that maybe I had too high of expectations going into it, so even though I liked it, I didn't adore it as much as the rest of the world, but that could definitely change as I read more of the series. I feel like the first one, you can't really get a true feel for if you're gonna like the story or not, unless you really hate it, but if you're like in between, I just don't think that you can really tell, just because there's still so much story to unfold. You know? If you've been watching my reading vlogs, if you've been watching anything that I've mentioned this in, you already know that I'm absolutely obsessed with these graphic novels. These are my all-time favorites, and this is probably why going into Saga, I wasn't blown away by Saga because I'd already been blown away by Monstrous. This one's volume 1. I got this a few months ago, kind of on a whim. It's when I really wanted to start my graphic novel journey, and I had seen someone on BookTube talk about it years ago in passing. I don't even think they read it. It was for like a 24-hour readathon, and they mentioned what it was about, and I remember instantly being intrigued, and I liked the art style. And that is really what this book captured my heart with, is the art style. It is so beautiful. First of all, it takes place in a steampunk world, a very like beautiful steampunk world. It has just a twist in the architecture, but the weaponry and the machinery that's going on is definitely steampunk, which is always really nice to see. And then the rest though is still pretty like ancient and fantasy-esque in general. So it was just all really cool to visually see, but the story itself is so good. This follows Micah Half-Wolf, and Micah she's a brawler. She is just trying to survive in this world where the Arcanics and the humans are at war with each other. It is another kind of civil war type of situation where everyone hates each other, and it's really dark at times. The way that the humans treat the half-breeds, so the half-Arcanic, half-humans, is terrible. It is actually very gruesome, very gory from the first page, and it's really hard. Just the cruelty that they show these people that they feel are lesser than them. You just feel a lot of empathy for it, and you just have this one girl, Micah, who looks absolutely human but actually is a half-breed, and she is trying to fight for the half-breeds that are being absolutely tortured and killed and poor and starving and everything. She doesn't really want to necessarily, but she's also not down to save the world, if that makes any sense. She's a really cool character. She's very cold and cut off, but you can tell she has a lot of love for a little companion that she meets along the way. This sweet little fox, half-fox girl. She's the star of the books. And then we also have this cat that goes along with them, and he is a necromancer, and basically in this world cats have multiple tails and they can talk and they keep the history, and we get so many history lessons just in between from other ones of these cats that quote the poets, and it's just so cute, and it really sometimes does take you out of the story, but it does give you such a full idea of what's going on in the world, and it made for really amazing world building. Because I definitely feel like that is the place where graphic novels aren't as strong as novels is in the world building, but Monstrous really is. I definitely went out and bought the second, and then after I finished the second, the third, these just keep getting better. The first one was already so good and so intriguing in what it was dealing with, and the third one, the way that it ended, I will let you know, it's just turning into such a different story and an amazing story. I know that these aren't done, and I think there's only one more graphic novel out right now, which is the fourth one, and I do want to go out and buy it, but I'm also just, you know, I don't want it to be over and have to wait. But I hope that the next one comes out soon, because I feel like the fourth one's been out the entire time I've been reading this, so maybe the fifth one will come out soon, if that makes any sense. But yeah, I highly recommend these. There is a bind-up, a really fancy bind-up of these at Barnes & Noble that I was thinking of getting, but it's also very expensive. So graphic novels tend to be pretty expensive, which is a bummer. But yeah, those are definitely my favorite graphic novels. I keep trying to read something different that I'm gonna like more, and still those ones top the cake. I haven't read that many, I guess, but those ones are still my top. And then I got Paper Girls, and this is volume 1. I actually got this from one of you guys. A lovely subscriber actually sent it on over, as well as Blood of the Elves, which is the first volume in the Witcher novels, basically, like the one that kickstarts the actual story. And she sent me Paper Girls, which had been in my Amazon wishlist as well. This is one that I had definitely been intrigued by. I think that I saw Hardback Hoarder talking about this, and she has amazing graphic novel recommendations, so definitely check her out if you want more, because this is obviously I'm only starting on my journey. But Paper Girls, it intrigued me because I remember her saying that it was kind of like Stranger Things but girls, and I am into that. It's about these like 4 preteen teenage girls who ride their bikes and deliver newspapers, and they kind of get themselves caught up in some kind of monster situation. Yeah, so in the early hours after Halloween of 1988, 4 12-year-old newspaper delivery girls uncover the most important story of all time. So I'm not sure if it's more of like a monster story or if it's just like a grand old mystery, but I was more intrigued just because of the Stranger Things vibes, the bike riding, the 80s, you know, I figured it would be pretty fun to read, and it's just super colorful. All my other ones are not this colorful, and this one's really cute. So I'm excited to pick this up, and thank you again. So we are now entering my manga portion of this haul. So these are definitely more of like the actual Japanese style mangas, and I will start first with the ones that you guys have already watched me read, and that is gonna be Death Note Volume 1. This is the black edition, so it actually does have volumes 1 and 2 inside of here. It's not just the first volume, it's why it's a little bit bigger. It's also why it's a little bit more expensive. I've been watching, well, I haven't been watching, but I watched Death Note when I was really young, around like 12 or 13, and I really enjoyed it. Death Note is just an amazing manga and anime, and it just has such dark themes. It follows Light, who is this A+ student. He is the top of his class. He is going places. His father's a detective. He has the perfect life, and he's the perfect boy. And one day he finds a notebook on the ground called a Death Note. And when he opens it up and takes it home, he realizes that the Death Note belonged to a Shinigami, which is a death god. And if he writes any name inside of the Death Note, the person will die. So he takes it upon himself as this perfect A+ student to rid the world of evil, and he is going to kill every single criminal that he can learn their names, because the rules of the Death Note are pretty simple. You have to know their true name, know what they look like, and that's about it. And if you want to, you can kind of specify how you want them to die. So it starts off just by him putting down names of any criminal that he comes across, and then it turns into something more as L gets involved, as the detectives start to realize that there is an actual murderer out on the loose, and they have no idea how he is killing all of these criminals. L is fighting against Light because he believes that the person that's killing all of the criminals is the true evil of the world. He's basically taking people's lives into his hands and playing God, while Light believes that what he's doing is pure and altruistic, and brings to the discussion as to what is truly evil, and is it really evil if you're killing the bad people? Which, I mean, there are definitely situations in here that become bigger. I mean, you have to imagine, he can't just keep killing criminals if people start to find out about him. So I definitely picked up the second volume of this. I do plan on reading this soon, but I'm taking these ones slow. I actually already watched the full anime, I'm pretty sure. So I do kind of have a good idea of how it ends and what goes on, but I'm really intrigued to see how the actual manga do it, because I'm sure there's so many details that were left out in the anime. And plus, these editions are so freaking pretty. I remember being like 12 years old and first getting into manga and seeing these at Borders, not even Barnes & Noble, Borders, and wanting them so badly because they just looked so cool, but I didn't know what they were about yet. And then when I did know what they were about, I was one of those people that's like, well, I've already watched the show. Why do I need to read the book? I'm glad I've changed. All right, next I got Orange. This is the complete collection, so it is more than technically like the first volume, but this is the only way that they are sold. I haven't heard much about this besides from Books with Chloe. She is actually the person that I first learned about Orange from, and I know that it's kind of, I mean, it still has the lighthearted themes, and it's very friend-focused and love-focused and just having a good time, but it also has a dark twist because the story starts with a girl getting a note to herself from her future self. and it's warning her that one of her friends is going to kill themselves and that she has to stop them. So I'm really intrigued to see how that's gonna go, how the blaming situation's going to go, how it's all going to unfold, if it's gonna work out. I mean, in general, I'm also really curious how she got a note from her future self, so there's obviously a fantastical element going on, and I'm just excited to see it, and I feel like it's going to be a really cool manga to read, pretty hard-hitting, and I know that Books with Chloe raves about it, so I'm excited to get to it. After I picked that one up, I actually went onto Book Outlet and I saw that Orange Volume 2 Complete Collection was on there for a really good deal. So I did go ahead and buy it. I know that this one, I believe actually Books with Chloe said that she didn't like this one nearly as much as she liked the first one, and I think that's like normally the consensus on this one, because the first one does finish out the story. Like it's the beginning and the ending and it completes it, and this is sort of like an add-on almost. So I did get it though, just because it was at a good price, and I figure I might want to know what happens in this one. If I finished the first one, I would have been mad at myself for not getting the second one if I wanted it, you know? But that was more of an impulse buy. And the last one, which I know I said I stopped talking about all the wholesome books that I already bought, but this is definitely a wholesome book and I'm so excited. This is Cheese Sweet Home. So I actually saw this from Julia Sapphire. She hauled this maybe a year ago, 2 years ago, something like that, and I instantly was interested. It's just so sweet. It's about this little kitten and his name is Chi, and he actually was abandoned, I believe, in the beginning of the story, and a family finds him and takes him home. Or not abandoned, I think he actually escaped from his litter and his mama, and he gets lost, and a little boy finds him and takes him home to raise as his own and introduced to the dog and everything like that. And at first it's really sad because, you know, he wants his mama, but after it just becomes so sweet, and it's just him narrating his life, and it's just such a sweet little kitten thing. And yeah, Adam and I have actually been looking into getting this for such a long time, ever since we got Luna, especially because, I mean, she reminds us of Luna. We kept holding off because they are kind of pricey. I mean, they are in full color, so there's that, and they're really, really big, but there are like 3 volumes of this. I think that the first one is said to be the best, but I haven't read it yet. I don't know what it is with me and holding off on wholesome books. I know I'm gonna like it, I just haven't read it yet. I've definitely read parts of it. Whenever Adam and I would go to Barnes & Noble, we would pick this up and just like flip through it together. So I'm really excited to actually finally have a copy of it. Actually, comment down below if I should get Adam to read this, and get him to get me to read this. So he'll read it first and then he has to convince me. So that sounds like fun. Yeah, let me know if you want me to do that. So those are all of the books that I had to haul today. I am really, really happy. I'm enjoying, again, this graphic novel slash manga journey. Definitely leave commented down below if you have any other recommendations for me, if there's anything you feel is similar to Monstrous, because I feel like I'm never gonna get off that Monstrous grind. I love it. It's just the perfect graphic novel. The artwork, flawless. The story, flawless. The characters, flawless. It's perfect. There's probably nothing that's gonna beat it, but it's okay. You can definitely comment down below and let me know if there's anything else that you think at least compares. So that's gonna be it for this video today, guys, and thank you so, so much for watching. I will see you in my next one. Goodbye!